All right. Go ahead and hit live again. I think it wasn't going. It's all good. All right. We live now. You reading the audio video's good. All right, y'all. So welcome back. We are just checking back in. Had a little technical difficulties, but I'm just gonna walk you through where we're at this point in the haircut. So there's 3 steps I like to do with all my haircuts. First is consult. That's where I make sure that my client and I are on the exact same page. Second phase is assess. That's when I break down the techniques that I want to do and make sure that they apply to this type of haircut, right? That I can assess and make sure that there's no problems with his hair. There's no issues that I'll have to overcome to make sure I bring his vision to life, right? It's about what he wants, not what I want to do. And last is frame. And that's kind of what I'm working on already right now is framing. So if you're just tuning in, the consultation was pretty much him telling me that he wanted a drop shuttle fade. And as I assess, I understand that based on his head shape, that means I have to round out the sides as much as I can. And he doesn't want to take any length off. So I'm just going to skim over the top here just to make sure the top is balanced and even. But I'm not going to take off too much length, right? For any head shape, you always want to go back to the oval look. The oval is always what's most attractive to the human eye. So with Ty's head shape, he has more of an oval already, more of a boxy oval shape. So to avoid his haircut looking even more boxy, I keep a little bit more length on the sides here than I do on the top. Not a lot, but just slightly more. The reason why is that gives me more of a round shape around the sides and allows me to keep that oval look. And again, the oval is the most appealing shape to the human eye. Subconsciously, everybody loves to look at ovals. All right, so let's break this down. There's a little bit more here on the top here to the right than it is on the left, so I'm going to knock a little bit length off. All right, so just shaping this side down. So I'm just going to stop for a second and pick this back out to make sure I'm working. Yeah, make sure my work is clean. All right, yeah, so the shape is looking pretty good. I'm still noticing that there's a little more weight here on the right side than there is on the left. So again, let me just go through and shape it, just skimming over the top. All right, and again on the sides here, my goal is to just barely get these wild hairs. I don't want to take the sides in too much. Now, what you may see here, what a lot of barbers may consider this to be is bulk, but this is what I want to keep with his cut. With this particular shape and the frame that I'm putting onto this haircut, I want to keep weight right here. I want to keep this bulk here to give him more of a round shape around the sides. Again, his head shape is more narrow, it's a little more square. So I want to make it more round. I do that by keeping a little more weight here. That's a hack too, guys. Like a lot of barbers don't even think about shape when it comes to doing a drop fade. Think about the client's head shape first, and then you frame the haircut around their head shape. So in this case, I have to keep length on the sides here. So this will be slightly longer than the top, but you'll see the end result when we curl it up. It'll give them a really dope shape. I may notice that I've switched locations this time too. The reason being is we're in the middle of a renovation in the shop. So we just got a fresh coat of paint on the walls, and my station got a lot more work to be done around it. I'm actually going to add some really dope visuals for this live to be even more dynamic. But that white background wouldn't have looked that good with this type of haircut, right? Because I'm dealing with salt and pepper, you wouldn't have seen the detail work that I'm doing as clean as you're able to see it now. So that's why we switched up the location this time. All right, so I'm gonna pick it out one more time. And this is important as you guys shape and deal with shaping afros. Picking it out one time is not good enough. It's not good enough. You have to make sure you pick it out a couple different times just to make sure that this curly texture, that you expose any misshaped parts with this curly texture, right? So multiple times. For me, I like to do it at least twice. I'll go through, pick it out once, shape it, pick it out one more time, and then shape it again. But that way, when he goes home and he styles it, he shampoos it, puts his product in, there's no surprises, right? There's no, lumpy side of the head of the shape of the haircut. So minimum two shapings. Make sure you go through twice. And this is still considered the framing side, the framing portion of the haircut. That's all I'm doing now is putting the frame on it. All right, so now just connecting this side to the top I just shaped. Again, careful to keep this angle at least 45 degrees beveled out, so I'm not making this a high top fade. All right, so let me show you guys a trick that I use whenever I'm shaping somebody's head or haircut. So as I pick out this front area here, I want you guys to pay close attention to these two corners right here. So like I mentioned before, it's all about head shape, right? And the oval is the most attractive shape. So what I'm thinking here is because Ty has a naturally more square shaped head, I have to give it more of a round shape. I have to manipulate the haircut and give it that roundness, right? Well, how do I do that right here, right? Because you see, naturally, it wants to be boxy. It's coming up here. It's kind of coming straight across. How do I add any kind of round definition to this? Well, this is where I focus right here on this these corners of his hair. So as I come through and shape, I'm going to shape in right here just to give this more of a round edge, and that will soften up this haircut, give it less of a boxy look and make it look more round. So this is a haircut really customization technique, guys. This is something that I do when I really want this haircut to fit his head shape with any client. I'll come through right here. I'll round off these corners just right here. And that, as we style it, just that effect will change how this haircut turns out. So if I come in here, I'll round off this corner, bring this in slightly, and change that from a high top fade look to now more of an oval look. Keeping this length up front right here, right? So I won't really mess with too much right there. All right, that side done. And again, this is my focus right here in this corner. So if somebody's looking directly at him, if he's looking face to face with somebody, they'll notice, not directly, but they'll see, and you will see too, that this corner is going to be curved off, and it'll take off that boxy look from his haircut. Hmm. That's all good. So the question is, how would I frame a haircut? Uh, comb over or crop top? Um, can you still hear me on the mic? Am I good? Um, that's a good question. That really depends on a lot of different things. Because a comb over can be multiple different lengths. Um, if it's straight hair that you're doing with, then you have to use your comb. And I'm going to demonstrate here, even though you don't have straight hair, Ty. If I have straight hair that I'm dealing with, sorry, Meg, then I would use my comb to pick out that hair, to comb it up, and then I'm still creating that oval shape, right? So with the afro, as I pick his hair out, it stands out, right? It stands out. It shows me what I'm dealing with. Straight hair, it just falls down. So I still have to, in my mind, build that shape, and I do that by combing it out, using my fingers to first start on their head shape. So I'm starting my fingers at the base of their scalp, and then I slide that up, still keeping that same shape. So if that client that you're referring to, if they had, let's say that the top of their head was really flat, well, you have to start flat on their scalp, and your fingertips should come straight up flat as well. So I hope that makes sense. The frame should be based on their head shape, and you figure out their head shape by taking your fingers at the bottom of that straight hair at the base of the scalp, and then bringing it straight out based on that shape. Um, but it's case by case, and it really depends on how long the hair is. Um, if it is a comb over, if it's a comb over, then you're going to be combing over the hair to one side, so there's going to be a lot of bulk on that side. So the shape should be a slightly heavier on one side compared to the other. So in that case, if it's just a comb over, the shape isn't as important as it would be with me shaping an afro like this. But if you have a follow up question, if you weren't quite sure how that answer relates to your client, then please ask a follow up question. But I really think it depends on the individual person. It depends on the head shape. It depends on the style that they want. So that's why the consultation comes first before you do the framing, because you have to make sure that there's a clear connection about what they desire and what you can accomplish. But yeah, without me knowing the model or seeing the model that you're referring to, it's hard for me to give you some direct advice, but I hope that helps out. Framing and head shape still always goes back to you wanting to maintain an oval shape. So if you keep that in your mind, um, if they have a round head shape, you want to make it more oval, then you have to bring in that roundness, right? To have a more square head shape, then like I'm doing with Ty here, you have to round out these corners, and I have to keep these sides here wide to still give it more of a round shape. So let me know, did that answer your question? If not, give me a follow up and give me some more clarity. All right. So while I wait on that question, let me go ahead and start the fade process now. So the shape is in there. And I mentioned earlier that this is my second haircut with Ty this week. He came in earlier this week on Tuesday. Now that wasn't a full haircut. That was a cleanup service. And for us, a cleanup service is me lining him up, doing a slight taper, clean up the hairs around his ears, quick 15 minutes in and out, get some fresh for a meeting, or maybe he was interviewing somebody. That maintains the haircut. Now I'm able to reset the haircut, right? Put the fade back in place. But the benefit of me already doing that cleanup service is I'm not starting from scratch, right? I have a guideline right here with his hairline. The fade isn't all the way out. I mean, really, if I wanted to, I can put a line on this, and this will be considered a heavy shadow fade. So this time of the year, especially around the holiday season, sometimes your monthly clients come every other week because they want to be fresh for events, right? And sometimes your weekly clients may come twice a week. So this is when adding a service like a cleanup or offering lineups or some kind of deal to your clients is really beneficial for you and your income if you want to make sure that you keep them clean, but also keep the work light for you on the back end, right? So instead of cutting them every 3 weeks, now you have a foundation. Now you have something that you can follow up with. And like I said, I did this cut a couple of days ago, so I'm not starting from scratch. No follow up question from that person, Meg? All right, cool. All right, so here's another tip when it comes to gray hair or salt and pepper hair. The salt and pepper hair is really difficult sometimes, y'all. So with fading, it doesn't sit down, it doesn't lay down like it would if it was all black. For some reason, gray hair doesn't, that texture is pretty unruly, right? It doesn't give you exactly what you want it to do. So you have to manipulate it, right? You have to make it and force it into place. The best way to manipulate gray hair is making sure that you're going against the grain the entire time. Now, when I finish this fade process, you'll see me go through and lay it down with the grain, but that's only as a finishing move. I never start with the grain when I'm dealing with gray hair. Again, why? Because that hair is already not wanting to lay down, not wanting to do what I guess black hair or his normal hair color would have done. So it's my job to cut it as even as possible to make sure that this fade turns out as dope as possible. That's the first tip. The second tip is fading and let's say compliments. Ty getting compliments on his haircut. It all comes down to contrast. So contrast with gray hair is difficult, right? Because it's all gray. There's no black to white contrast. So how can I create contrast with this fade? Well, if I'm doing a shadow fade, I want to take the shadow portion, the bottom portion of the fade, I want to make that as light as possible. So even though I am still going to put a line around his ear, there were times when I used to do a bald fade with Ty, and he likes the shadow fade look now. But even though he still wants a shadow, I'm still going to create a lot of transition, a lot of definition. That way his haircut pops and it catches somebody's eye when they walk by. They see that fade. It's a good way to add contrast, to add conflict. That's a good way to think about it too. Conflict, contrast, that's what draws attention. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to take it down to a, let's say, half. Let's do quarter. So I'm going to do halfway close with my clippers just on the bottom. And that's going to be the foundation of this drop shadow fade. And I'm dropping it all the way down. So I'm just going up about a quarter of an inch, maybe a third of an inch off his ear. And then take that all the way around. And again, this won't be a bald fade, so I'm still going to keep enough to square off his sideburns. But the bottom of my fade will be all the way down to about a, yeah, I'm using my no guard halfway open. So about half of a zero. Go ahead. All right, so the question, if I'm hearing you correctly, is does my fade process or my guidelines change because I'm dealing with gray hair? Curly hair versus straight hair. Do my guidelines change based on curly hair versus straight hair? Um, no, they don't. The guidelines don't change. The guidelines is still what keeps me comfortable. It keeps you comfortable. So I would still put in the same guidelines if I was doing this same haircut on somebody with straight hair. I'm still starting off the same way. I'm fading the same way. Um, what may change for me if I'm cutting curly hair is I can now go with the grain, right? So I can go down as opposed to sticking against the grain. One of my hard rules that I like to keep when I'm doing straight hair haircuts on a white guy or maybe somebody who's Hispanic or Asian, whatever, is I never go with the grain with that straight hair because that's a good way to set yourself up for some trouble. Meaning like you may end up putting a gap in their fade or just overall messing up your entire fade process. So no, my approach is still the same. Now there are some more advanced techniques that you can do. I definitely will use more of my comb when I'm dealing with straight hair. But as far as my guidelines, no, if this haircut was on somebody with straight hair, you can approach it the same way. All right, so that was no guard. Let me go to zero guard. And I still want to keep this as a really low drop phase. So I'm keeping everything beneath this temple peak point right here at the corner. I want all my fade to pretty much drop beneath there and keep weight right here. I'll still want to keep this curly or able for him to curl up with the sponge. So right now I'm all the way open with my zero guard. Again, making sure that I go against the grain. One of the Another difficult thing about fading gray hair is that your eyes don't necessarily show you exactly where the problems are, right? Because all the hair is gray or all the hair is white, you won't see the weight in the fade sometimes. So this is what a lot of barbers get in trouble with, is they may see this as being done because you don't see any hard lines in there, right? But that's when you have to make sure that you're paying close attention to what guard you're using, to what step that you're in currently. Because if you lose track, this haircut will look really choppy. So this is when it's really important to stick to a system, to stick to a set of rules or steps that you use, and to know where you're at all times. Now, I have no problem with anybody having a full conversation, talking about the game with their client, but if that distracts you from knowing where you're at, from knowing what guard you left off on, then it's best suited that you just stay focused. All right, let me hear it. Best would be something of the opposite color, so a black comb would be perfect. Yeah, black comb would be perfect if you're doing clip over comb. That'll give you the most contrast. Those hairs will come through, and you'll see the gray in contrast to the black comb. And I don't have a black comb, so I can't demonstrate. For me, it's not so much of an issue. Again, I've been doing it for a little while now, so I know exactly how this fade should look and what step I need to be on. So the comb color doesn't make too much of a difference for me. But if you're just starting out, I would definitely recommend switching up combs depending on the color of the hair. All right, so that was my zero guard. I started off zero all the way open, then I went halfway to knock out that line. Now I'm going with my one guard, start open, and I'm just gonna flick out. Again, keeping it beneath this temple peak point. As I come around the ear here, you'll notice that I have more of a 45-degree angle. I'm no longer going straight up. This is helping me with my blend, right? So me holding this clipper this direction, keeping it closer towards his ear than it is towards the top away from his ear. This is giving me a fade just by keeping this one blade on, this one guard on. It's a little more of an advanced technique, but it's a good tip and a good trick to use always when working around the ear. Because oftentimes when you fade in, especially a drop fade, around the ear is always where a little weight sits. So just keep that in mind. As you go around the ear, just keep that 45-degree angle. It'll help you out. All right, now I'm going back halfway underneath where I just went. And this is a low drop fade, right? Low drop shadow fade. So here is his occipital bone right back here. I'm going to try my best to keep this fade sitting either right on top of that or right beneath it. That's going to keep this fade low. When you start to bring the fade up around here, like the middle of his earlobes, and that's more of a mid fade. It definitely depends on the head shape, but for this purpose, for this haircut, I want to keep it right beneath this occipital bone. So back here, my last step will be a 2 guard, maybe a 2 open as I fade, just to blend out some of this weight back here. All right, back to being all the way open with my 1 guard, coming through, flicking out, using way more wrist and fingertip motion than I am my entire arm. All right, so that's going to soften up my blend by not using my entire arm, either just using my wrist or just my fingertips. All right, so last step now is right here where this temple peak point is. Again, I've already shaped everything above here. I've already added some softness to the corners of his hairline here to give it more of a round shape. So I'm just going to demonstrate clipper over comb now. So as I transition where I've been fading to this top section, I'm going to go ahead and just come in, bevel out for about 45 degrees, maybe a little more. Just do clipper over comb to connect these sections. Yep. Is it best to freehand shape any area above the occipital bone? Is that the question? Um, is it best compared to shaping it with the guard on? Is it best? So that's a good question. I don't know if it makes too much of a difference. I think that kind of comes down to personal preference. Um, with Ty, I'm not going to use a guard. Now, if he told me that, again, going back to the consultation part, right? If he told me that, Mike, man, it's getting way too heavy back here. I need you to take this down. I'm not going to freehand shape that. If I know this is a major concern from him, then I'll make sure I get all the way through it by putting on a 5 guard here and make sure I clean up everything through there, right? To take out that weight, that density. That's not the case here. Here, he's cool with the shape. So I'm just going to freehand it just to knock off the hairs that may be slightly out of place. Um, so yeah, if I'm thinking about more taking down weight, if I really want to debulk this haircut, then I would put on a guard. If I'm just maintaining and cleaning up the shape, then freehanding works perfectly fine. Now, definitely not with a kid. So if there's a kid that you're cutting and they have the same type of haircut, I don't recommend freehanding with the shaping. I would say that unless that kid sits really still, that you should always just shape with your guards. Meaning, instead of freehanding, you can just throw on a 7 guard, 6, 5, 4, and give it a shape that way. Because you don't want to risk them moving and throwing off everything that you just did while you're in the middle of your fade process. Now, again, there's exceptions to the rule. I have some kid clients that sit really still, but just to keep things, just to be cautious, I would shape with the guard. Use your guards to shape, if that makes sense. All right, so you see here, this is good weight. I want to keep this here because again, this is a low fade, so come through just a little bit With my eye, I'm looking for chunky areas in the blend. So right here, I see it's a little not misshaped, but I see that there's a little more density here than what I like. That means that I didn't go up with my fade through there. So I can use my comb to comb through here and give me that transition that I'm looking for. And there we go, starting to sit more clean. I don't know if you guys can tell, but on this side, even though it's gray hair, there's still weight sitting right there. So clip over comb coming through, 45-degree angle, and just picking off that weight. The best thing about clipper over comb is it works with every hair texture. So that's straight hair, curly hair. It's a technique that'll work. You just have to practice it. Practice keeping this hand still, because essentially your comb is your guard, right? So you have to make sure that you have a steady hand and that you're maintaining a consistent angle as you work through your fade sections using clipper over comb. But it's a great way to clean up every haircut. All right, I'm gonna do a shape check one more time. Looking good. Again, I'm rounding off these corners a little bit to give him more of a round shape with his haircut. Okay, we're good. So this bottom piece, I have not faded all the way out, so I can do that now. My last step, let me just clean up the bottom, create a little bit of a line, go up one notch. So it's a quick taper, right? One more notch. Let's bring it up one more. And I'm done. So now at this point, I'm doing all cleanup work, right? So I'm going through, I'm looking for areas that catch my eye, that seem out of place. Combing his hair in different directions, right? Seeing what pops out. Okay, that looks solid. Coming through here. All right, so now that I faded everything against the grain, now as a finishing touch, right at the very end, now I'm gonna go with the grain and try to lay down any of the gray hair that's still sticking up, right? So it's been faded properly. Now let me kind of come through and rake down whatever is still trying to fight me with this blend. So again, I'm around the ear, I'm still using this 45-degree angle, right? So really I'm just fading and I'm just taking down the hair with just this bottom piece of my blade. I'm not gonna go up that high. Just gonna keep this around the base. And these clippers are really quiet, so I can kind of hear them working. All right, so that part right there, I was just blowing out the hair, um, just checking to see if I create any part that sticks out. Now, again, this isn't going to be a perfect microphone type of haircut. That's not what he wants. He's going to be shaping it, but I still want to make sure that as I mess it up, that nothing pops out as something that I missed, right? So I can just go through with my fingertips, mess it up a little bit, and this is how I can check my shape. Okay, everything looks good. Now let's start to clean up this hairline, and we're going to get into the lineup portion. Man, coming through clutch with the towel. Appreciate you. Ty, if you mind me asking, bro, at home or in between haircuts, right? How are you styling your hair? What product are you using? Are you using like a mousse still? What do you want to keep your hair curly?
Yeah, I start off wet it with water and then I use your leave-in conditioner
Cool.
and then the cream.
All right, good. Are you using a sponge at home too?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So the reason why I'm asking my clients how they style it at home is that plays a difference, or it makes a difference in how I style it here in the shop. I want to make sure that I mimic what he's doing at home, or just identify if it's something that he's doing incorrectly at home. Um, he's following the process of using water to soften it up, to add moisture. Then he uses some leave-in conditioner, and then lastly, he uses a finishing styling product to hold the curls into place. So I'm going to do the same thing here. With curly hair texture, mousse is a great product. Gel can work too, as well as pomade, but I don't like gel or pomade because it's gel dries too sticky, it's too hard, and pomade is too tacky, right? So we use our product, Ideal Hair Care Curl and Wave Cream. This is a great finisher for curly cuts like this. So he starts with the leave-in conditioner, that's what he mentioned, and then he finishes with this Curl and Wave Cream, which is really light. It doesn't dry hard, but it'll hold his curls, give him some definition without the crispiness, right? Without it feeling like, he just sprayed some holding spray in his hair or anything like that. So if you're looking for a product for your clients to try out, I definitely highly recommend our Curl and Wave Cream. My wife and I designed this. Took us 2 years to put it together, and hired a local manufacturer, a local chemist. So it's GMP certified. But yeah, try it out as a great finishing product for curly lengths. All right, so I'm gonna spray a little bit of water first. Gonna add in the Curl and Wave Cream. And if you notice, I'm doing this process after I cleaned his front hairline off, right? So I'm styling his hair while I give his hairline a chance to dry, and I've only sprayed water up top here. So I'm kind of collapsing some time frames. And another trick, guys, is I wouldn't recommend that you use the same sponge all day on your clients. That's just unsanitary, right? So what I do with my clients who have curlier texture, who like to have that curl style, is I either use a fresh towel to create the curls, or I'll get a sponge that's just for them. So this is Ty's sponge. I keep it in the box. Whenever he comes in, it's underneath my station. I spray it with alcohol when I'm done with it, but this is what we use on his hair and his hair only. So it's a great investment. It's something that doesn't take a lot of effort, right? You just got to keep organized underneath your station. And as you create these curls and define these curls, stick in one spot for like 3 or 4 rotations and then move on to the next. I don't recommend like going around in a circle like this and continuing to move. Just stick in one section first and then bring it out. And now y'all can see where that shaping really gave this more of a round feel, right? So see how much of a difference that made? Instead of it giving it like a boxy, normally it would have came straight out. Now it's already looking more round. All right, cool.
One of your followers said ideal barber curls slash coming soon.
Ideal barber curl sponge. Yeah, that could be one of the next products. We'll see what the demand looks like. Now, honestly, I think the next product for us will probably be some type of oil. I think that'll be next for us, some type of all-purpose oil. But you never know. Might have to add the sponge to the lineup too.
Okay, let's see, you can look into the Russian version. The Russian version is the quality because it kind of like glitter and you can get the shape at the same time.
True. Yep. I haven't tried it yet. I've heard that Bow Wow's rubber version was really good. Is that the one you're referring to? I haven't tried it yet, but one thing I didn't talk about with this is also the value that I'm adding to Ty and to his overall opinion of me as his barber, right? Like I have some products that I use that's just for him. So that's a way that I'm increasing my value to my client right now. Yes, it would be something, I guess, easier for me to have one sponge that I use on everybody, but now this is creating a custom experience for my client, right? So he feels more value because I have a product that I use just for him. That's another, dimension to the to the service that I'm providing. So think about it from that angle too, y'all. And also think about it from your client's perspective. I mean, how would you like it, or what would you prefer? I mean, even though my barber tells me that he disinfects this sponge every time, and he may even do it with me right there in the chair, I think I would still prefer that my barber would have a separate tool for me if it was possible. So you still have to keep in your mind that you want to build clientele, that you want to maintain clientele, and giving your client a different experience, a more customized experience, a more tailored experience without having to add a whole bunch of time to your services is what I look for. That's what I actually teach to my barbers in my program is creating custom experiences, creating experiences that feel like unique, right? That feel like they can't get that from anybody else besides just a dope haircut. What else are you bringing to the table? What else can they value? But that's a whole nother conversation. Man, can you get some angles too from your phone? Put that down. Now, about a month ago, Ty's hairline was pushed back by a barber, so we're still in the process of letting it fill all the way back in. It's still a little lighter in the corners here. That's where it was pushed back. So my goal here isn't to make it as sharp as possible, but to just define his natural hairline as much as I can. Take off a little bit of bulk sitting right there. When I say bulk, I mean hair that's hanging over where the hairline is. Here I am just combing that hair over the hairline, right, removing the bulk sitting on the line. I see barbers oftentimes go over the same spot over and over again. For one, that may be causing irritation, especially if your clippers are zero gap. So I would only recommend that you go over the same line multiple times if there's hair actually there to cut, right? So if I'm going over it multiple times, it's because I combed hair over that spot and I'm reshaping that corner, reshaping that hairline. especially with your light skinned clients. You know what I'm saying? They turn red real quick on you.
Bullshit.
So I'm stretching the skin, keeping it natural, and again adding some definition but still making it sharp, right? So natural but still sharp. Most of my hairlines with my clients, I kind of walk that line. I toe that line between supernatural but still as sharp as I can. Now, how do you do that? Well, that's prep, right? So going through using some type of soap to remove any oil, and then going over and creating definition by combing hair over that spot, over that same natural line, and redefining it. So especially with this type of haircut, as long as it is, he's going to go home and have to shampoo it, right? He's going to have to restyle it. You don't want the hairline to be gone after he restyles it. So the best way for you to create some longevity is to comb that hair over where you want your line and kind of mess it up yourself, right? Mess it up in the shop, see what it does, and then reline it. Again, being careful in the corners here, not to push it back, trying to grow back that natural hairline.
Anytime on your hairline.
I did. I used Gillette for sensitive skin. That shaving cream is a great cleanser, so I used it for that purpose to cleanse the oil off the skin. And the only time I'm going over the hairline again is if there's hair sticking out of place, because I am going to finish with the razor, which is another layer of potential irritation, right? So just be careful. Check your lips in for me, though. These are my sharper trimmers, so I flip them over instead of going down on his mustache, taking them off like that. Again, trying not to cause irritation or pain. I'm just going to go against the grain because I'm going to follow this up with my electric shaver to get it smooth anyway. So even though I may have been able to go faster by using my sharper side of my blade, I don't want to sacrifice comfort. All right, last step is the razor line. I have my razor set inside this blade holder. I do like this blade holder. I just got this one from Black Ice. It's pretty good. It's heavier than what I'm used to. One thing I do regret is getting a white one because it got some color smudges on it. But besides that, perfect razor holder. All right, so I'm just going to go through with some no burn astringent. This is a mix of witch hazel and aloe vera, and use this as kind of like a pre-shave conditioner as I come through and define this hairline. Push that back for me, bro. All right, y'all, we are pretty much finished with this haircut. So as we wrap it up, let me know if you have any last questions, anything I can clarify about my process or how I decided to fade them out. But we are wrapping this thing on up. And let me know too if you guys are still in the chat. What did you learn? Was there anything new that you picked up today? Was there a highlight of this process that stuck out in your mind? Something that you're going to take and implement right away? Give me some feedback. What is something that you learned? Again, going through and taking the hard edge off these corners right here. Cool, and that's it. All right, Ty, check it out, homie. Cool. All right, y'all, so this is it. This is a full tutorial on a drop ball fade with gray hair. And this fade came out super clean. Hairline's really sharp. And he's in the game. All right, Ty, again, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for showing off this gray hair.
Appreciate you, bro.
All right, y'all. I'll check in with y'all next time. Again, thanks for tuning in. Should be back with y'all next week to do another tutorial. But leave in the chat, leave in the comment section. Is there a particular haircut that you want to see, or a tactic, or a technique that you want to see? Let me know, and I'll do my best to schedule it for you. All right. Y'all have a great Saturday. Hope y'all have a busy one in the shop. All right. Peace.
Yeah, ball.